Luke Gazdic, former NHLer, former Oiler, joins the show. You also see him on the Sportsnet broadcast. Luke, we're not having fun right now.
Yeah, I'm not smiling either. I was dying. I joined the chat, and the first question is it all over? No one's having a good day.
No, not at all. Let's break down that game last night a little bit. It's frustrating because I thought they came out of the gates and it was like, okay, they're showing right now that if they skate hard and they work hard, they're just going to pummel this Sharks team. But then there's this gap of like 30 minutes where they just totally sleepwalk and they lose it. I don't understand it. Is this as simple as them somehow finding a way to not turn their brains off for 30 minutes? Like, is this fixable in your opinion? Is this a work ethic and a grinded out mindset issue, or is this a talent issue?
Yeah, you said it pretty bang on there. It's just so many lapses. And I did think they came out hot, but honestly, I expected just way more from them. Just from like looking at the game as a whole going into it, I was so far off in thinking that I was going to see something different. And I was just so disappointed with not only the effort, but what I talked about a lot on the broadcast last night is you can tell how much stuff they're trying to force, like plays that aren't there. Whether it's on the power play and trying to find seams or trying to make pinches or trying to make plays. And I get that. Like you're trying to create offense. You're trying to get something going, but it's just so forced. And I think that is the first noticeable sign. I know that sounds weird saying after everything they've been through so far this year, but that was the first notable and like visible sign of them really like gripping the stick. And you could visibly see that they were frustrated. And, yeah, it was a team that was playing down to their level too, which is like, that's something you always talk about when you go into buildings, especially when you're playing teams that aren't the same caliber as you, is like playing down to this pond hockey Sharks level that they wanted. It's a trap game. That's exactly what San Jose wanted. And I thought, I really did think they were going to come out even stronger, even faster, spot skins a couple goals early and just roll. And that was the most disappointing part for me, was just everything as a whole, man.
Yeah. And another thing too is, again, it's hard because the last couple of seasons, Connor and Leon have just been perfect. Like they produce for basically all 82 and they carry this team on a lot of nights. But I'm watching them right now. And I mean, Connor has 2 goals on the year. At this point last year, he had 3 hat tricks, I believe. Leon Draisaitl, we talked about him as being just a very, very frustrating player to watch right now, because when he was on his own line last night, he was the 3rd hardest working Oiler out of that trio with Holloway and Fogel and himself. I'm a little bit worried that these two have kind of slowed down, and just the way it's going, like if these two can't find it, they have no hope. And I know that's maybe an unfair expectation, but like if 97 and 29 can't kick it into a new gear right away here, then this season, it really is all over.
Yeah. And to be honest with Connor, I think we can all tell like something's off, right? Like he just doesn't have that same jump, that same step that he usually does. I mean, he drove the puck wide a couple times early and, like brought it to the net on his strong side one time in the first period, but you're just not seeing him take those wide and drop shoulder and like really lean into guys. And just some really like uncharacteristic turnovers. Like with Connor, I know that's been a problem in the past, but nothing crazy like last night. Like he probably had 4 or 5 where it was just simple turnover right into the Sharks defender's hands. And Leon for me is the one, man, seeing him after the game, sitting down there and, shaking off questions, and just the look on his face and the body language and the mannerisms is like the most visibly shook that I've seen him. And Leon has this really bad habit of bringing that onto the ice with him. There you go. Like right there. Like it's a bad habit of his, but he has a routine of doing it, where when things aren't going that well in the game, or maybe he's not playing that well in the game, or things aren't going the way he's wanting to, he has a tendency to really show it visibly. And last night was like a prime example of that, where you can just watch a shift. You can watch him on TV, or whether you're in the building, and just be like, yeah, something's off there too. Like, you can clearly tell that he's frustrated about the way the game's going. And that, to me, I think is one of the most concerning things. Talk about goaltending, offense, whatever you want. It's like the visible body language for me, that guys are wearing their heart on their sleeves, but like in a negative way.
What do you think is going on in that dressing room right now after such a, like, they really can't get much worse for this? Like, how do you think the players hold themselves accountable in this kind of situation?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm really hoping the core and the leadership there is stepping up and saying the right things. But I just know that when you get into, areas like this, where sometimes you don't even know what to say, right? You're like, it's just silence. It's some of the most bizarre locker rooms that I've been in, where it's just complete silence. And on the plane after games, not a lot of guys are talking, and it's just frustration and stress and nervousness. But I really think that's where the leadership part comes in, because they have a couple good vets in that room, and saying the right things here is got to come from the players. Because I'm telling you, quite honestly, the message that Woody's sending is not getting through. So this is on the boys. Like right now, I think this is on the boys, because after a while with coaches, you can coach as much as you want and instill systems as much as you want, but there is a clear disconnect right now between Woody and the guys, and that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, so let's talk about Woody a little bit here. I'm totally blanking. Were you in Edmonton for any of the coaching changes during your couple of seasons?
Yeah, I played for 4 coaches in 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, decade of darkness.
So I had Dallas Eakins, and then Mac T hired Todd Nelson, but came down from the booth for like 2 weeks and just said, I'm going to be the coach for like 2 weeks. And then Nelly's going to take over. So it was like this weird double coach situation. And then Todd McClellan and Woody and those guys took over for my last year there. So Woody was there, but he was more of like the forward power play, healthy scratch skating coach.
So what's it like in a room when that happens? And I guess part 2 to my question would be, do you think that's a jolt this team needs right now?
Yeah, in the sense of moving on from Woody?
Yeah, like, would a coaching change spark these guys? Like, what's it like in the locker room in the aftermath of something big like that happening?
Yeah, I remember the Dallas one was crazy, just because we were on a very similar run to what they were doing right now. I think we were like 1-9, and just every day you went to the rink, you were just thinking, is today the day? Is today the day? For me, the way I see this is like kind of what I just said. Like there is certain times in the longevity of a coach and a team here where the message just starts to fall on deaf ears, and it's just clearly not being received by the players. And listen, sitting in the locker room when coaches start talking or whatever, or they're trying to whatever, show video or whatever it may be, motivate, sometimes just after a while, it just stops being received. And that's what I see right now. But boys, how many coaches are we going to go through here? Like this core, man, you know me, I'm generally a very positive guy, and I was a player, so I hate to rip on the players, but like, how many coaches is this core going to go through? Like, at what point does some of the onus fall on the players? And, talk about instilling systems and stuff like that. Like, if I'm Woody, you could show 10, 12 clips last night and not say one word, just like throw it on the video wall and just run them through and be like, what do you guys think? Like, watch, like, this is what I'm seeing. What can I do here? Cause there were just so many instances of just breakdowns and guys not being in the right places and guys doing huge loops around the ice after you're going through just like simple kind of both effort and honest mistakes. And I really just don't know what changing what he does for them. But at the same time, you got to be open to all options right now because something's got to change, right? I don't know what firing maybe Kenny does. I don't know what that does for the team during the year. I've been part of a GM change too, and if anybody was to go, it's probably starting with the coach.
Yep, probably. Christine is in on the Facebook and says changing coaches is not the only way. This team has had more coaches than any team in the past decade. And I mean, someone else on the YouTube, I think it was Dacky, said they need a strong veteran leader. But I'm with you, Luke. Like, again, it's not fun to do it, but like, it's year what 8, 9, 10 of Connor, Leon, and Nurse, and all these core guys, and they bring in Ekholm last year, and they have other pieces like Zach Hyman, who's been around NHL locker rooms for a decade. Nuge has been here for 12 years. Like, at some point, like, got to be some accountability there. Like, it can't just be another coach. They've tuned out hard-ass coaches with a guy like Hitchcock, and they've had McClellan and had Tippett, and now you get a guy who is presumed as a bit of a player's coach in Jay Woodcroft, and it's like, oh, well, maybe he's too soft for this group. And it's like, okay, at one point you've tried every coaching style there is, and it's not working. So you got to ask a different question.
Yeah. And, going back to the onus being on the players, I think there is just another level for so many guys on this team. Yeah. Like, talking about the offense for one, like, they are not getting any offense generated from basically anybody in their bottom 9, call it bottom 6, but like Clouder and, Holloway and these guys, like, there's just such another level for so many guys. And that's what I think is the most frustrating part for me is I expected a lot of these guys to take another step here. And especially after the year they had and the playoff run they had and the lessons you learn from that and the experiences you pick up, it's like, okay, everyone takes the summer and has, a little more juice come into the season. I mean, they brought them in here 2 weeks early, right? Like, they made that message, pretty clear that this is it. And I think there's so much more that so many guys can give on this team that at a certain point, like I said, I don't know if this is the coach. I really don't.
Yeah.
I guess the other big news this week was Jack Campbell is not with the team anymore. And last night, I'm sure you saw the goal that he allowed in the American League too. Like, I guess for a guy like him, like, do you see a path back to the NHL for him this season, or what do you think the future is for Jack Campbell right now?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel for Jack. I've been a casualty of the waiver wire before, and I mean, there's a very human element to that about, being on a one-way and being a big fixture of a team and getting sent to the American League, leaving your house, most of the time, your significant other, your pets, whatever you want to call it, the comforts of your own home. And first and foremost, I feel for the guy because he's an excellent human being. But like we always talk about, right, it's a results-driven league. Seeing that last night obviously was not encouraging, watching the Baco highlights. Mm-hmm. Clearly something's wrong with him right now, up top, between the ears, whatever it is. Right now, I'm just going to tell you, I don't see him probably coming back in the near future here for this team. He's going to have to string together a really good long stretch of games. And right now, he's just got to put the work in. He's got to put the work in and get some confidence back. But I don't see him being an option anytime soon, although I really do hope he turns it around because, as you guys know, I know we talk a lot about good guys this and in the room that, but he is truly one of the really good guys that I have met and played with, and I hope nothing but the best for Jack because it's tough to watch guys like that struggle so publicly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if this team needs another wake-up call because the win at the outdoor class or the Heritage Classic, that was supposed to be a pick-me-up and a wake-up call. And then Gagne comes in, scores his goals. That's supposed to be a pick-me-up and a wake-up call. And then that doesn't end up working. So they waive Jack Campbell, and that's supposed to be a pick-me-up and a wake-up call. And it doesn't hit either. And it's just like, man, I mean, how many more wake-up calls does this team need to? Hey, you were a teammate with Gagne, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think 2 years. Sammy was one of my favorite teammates of all time, guys. He's one of the best, too.
How cool is it getting to see him? Like, he's back, and he's like, that first game, unbelievable. But he's been like one of their hardest working forwards as well. I love watching that dude play right now.
I know, and it's honestly unreal. Like after last year, gets his season cut short, double a hip surgery at 34, and I just remember being like, man, guy's had a great career. He's going to retire, probably go into player development, go run Hockey Muskoka here just north of Toronto, and settle down and live on the lake. And then I see him training in the summer. I'm like, this guy's making a shot. And so first and foremost, credit to him for getting back, because when you're at a stage like that, there's so many checkpoints that he probably had to hit before he was able to they were even, going to think about signing him. But he's been a really bright spot, man. I think just what an injection of life into the dressing room. And I know how much the guys look up and respect him. And man, seeing those 2 goals the other night, late in the game, that was one of the cooler things I've ever seen. I heard Rogers was pretty freaking loud when he put the second one in. So he's another guy too that I think is very important. I know we talked about veterans, but I look back at 2 guys, even as simple as like a Mike Smith and like Duncan Keith, and how much I think that the dressing room really misses guys like that. And I think putting Sam in there helps, but I really do think they miss some like extra, like super vets in that locker room, some older guys that have been around, maybe some ex-cup winners, because right now those are guys that can quietly send a message and kind of right the ship. And that's one thing I truly think they're missing is a little bit of veteran leadership to guide the way.
We'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be totally stunned if we saw a trade at some point in the next 72 hours, 3-4 days, something like that. Luke, we kept you really long, man, so we'll let you go. Really appreciate you hopping on. This was a good little therapy session here as we talk through our problems.
Yeah, thanks, boys. I'll see you later.